This boy was a hopeless student with no future, but when he met a special girl and was impaled by a magic stick, he gained the ultimate power, allowing him to use 2 abilities instead of 1. The story begins when Qinglian recites poetry while indulging in some tipsy juice. As he finishes his bottle, a strange man joins him, remarking on his God-given talent for poetry and how it would be a shame if it was lost when he meets his demise. He pleads with Qinglian to permit him to refine his spirit into an ink brush. The guy conjures fresh tipsy juice, which Qinglian quickly snatches and gulps down. The poet is so inspired by the taste that he begins to write, and in the process, he turns into a powerful brush spirit. The strange man cannot believe what he is seeing and tries to capture it, but the brush resists and jets off into the night sky. 2,000 years later, Luo sits in his university poetry class, spinning his pen while wondering why Mr. Zhu uses an ink brush to mark the register. These internal thoughts are interrupted when his teacher asks him a question. He stands up and unsurely gives the name of a recently released video game as his answer. This prompts everyone in the class to laugh. The class pet Zheng comes to the rescue by giving the perfect answer, which impresses Mr. Zhu, who nods with approval. Zheng then proceeds to Luo to reiterate that students should respect the teacher. He grabs the class clown for acting up in lesson and marches him to the front to apologize to their teacher. The guy doesn't understand this, as all he did was give the wrong answer. He breaks free from Zheng's grasp when they get to the front, but in the process, he stumbles into the teacher's table, knocking his tea and the brush off. Luo skillfully manages to catch the cup before it hits the floor. He gets up and boasts about the feat he just performed, but he's not cautious about his foot placement, and he steps on the teacher's precious brush, breaking it. After the lesson, both students are led to the principal's office, where Zheng gives the best apology one can imagine, leaving Luo stunned. Mr. Zhu nods with approval, and the principal waves his misbehavior since he was just doing his job as the class monitor. However, the head turns to Luo and starts to blast him since Mr. Zhu is highly respected in his field. He orders Luo to stop taking the class and fail. He will also be given a demerit. The principal even threatens to expel him. Mr. Zhu intervenes, asking Luo if he has any idea about the brush he crushed. He explains the exquisite details that make it special. However, a replacement can be found at the flea market. He will overlook their mishap if they can get him one. He turns to the perplexed principal and tells him that a teacher is supposed to teach and not punish. Mr. Zhu points out that an ink brush has 4 virtues, which Luo will learn about while getting him a new brush. This situation is a win-win for both parties. Luo is only happy that he has the opportunity to dodge the demerit. The following day, Luo has an exhausted look, as this is his 10th flea market that he has visited in search of the brush. He suspects that Mr. Zhu probably knows that it's not in town and just wants to torture him. Luo is only worried about the demerit, so he pushes on. He stumbles on a brush vendor who tries to entice him to his quality products, but Luo is not impressed with what he brings out. While the vendor aggressively tries to convince him to buy, he spots Zheng and breaks free to tail him. They arrive at Zheng's uncle's shop. Luo eavesdrops on their conversation and learns that his uncle's worker has found the brush in the Changchun thrift shop in the southern city. Zheng laughs at the thought of Luo looking aimlessly for it. He decides to have lunch with his uncle, thinking that there is time on his side. Little does he know that Luo overheard everything and is heading there while he obliviously enjoys his lunch. Soon after, the guy arrives there and is impressed by the various artifacts on display. He calls to anyone present, and Wrong answers. When she steps out, Luo is taken aback by her beauty, but the slam of the door snaps him out of his trance. She informs him that it's her grandfather's shop, when he acts surprised to see a young lady working in such a place. He cuts straight to the chase, asking about the pineapple texture wolf hair brush, and pleads to see it when she confirms that they have one in stock. His excitement is palpable when he verifies the details. She pulls the brush back when he tries to touch it, saying that they must wait for her grandfather to price it. She allows him to handle the box, and he notices how old it is. Their interaction is interrupted when someone enters the shop. Luo worries that it might be Zheng, but it's a different person. The guy wonders if he has come at a bad time since there is a guest at the shop. The visitor walks over to Rong and hands his card requesting to speak to Mr. Wei, who is her grandfather. She asks the guy to leave since he is not welcome. The man conveys to her not to be so cold-hearted and gets possessed by the demonic spirit of Swiper as he snatches the box from her hand. But before she can tell him Swiper no swiping, he opens it and scoffs at it, calling it cheap while tossing it away. Luo rushes to catch it before it hits the ground. The stranger asks Rong to hand something over to him, confessing that he is all about equal rights and left when it comes to beating people. Luo quickly gets in front of Rong after hearing that the stranger's hands are rated E for everyone, so he tells the man that it's wrong to put hands on a woman. This only annoys the guy, who blows them back with a wind technique. Luo catches Rong when she stumbles. The lady tells him to get his hands off her, which he promptly does. My guy knows better because he does not want to be called out in 10 years' time when he makes it big. All the while, the guy heads to the storeroom and retrieves a package. He sarcastically thanks her and extends his greetings to her grandpa. Rong steps forward and orders Luo to stay put. She closes her eyes, activating her ice powers. The area suddenly becomes cold. She shoots snowballs at him, which he tries to swat away, but the snow clings to his hand. He calls the snow on his hand harmless and summons wind to counter it, but it only increases the potency of the snow, which now covers him. He realizes his foolishness and stops. Rong goes on the offensive, summoning a brush. The guy recognizes it as the snowstorm ink brush as it shoots towards him, so he summons the Cloud Rider ink brush. Luo slaps himself, fearing that he might be going crazy, and makes a dash for the door. All the while, the guy informs Rong that she's not the only one with a spirit brush, and suggests she stands down, or she will not survive his next assault. She glosses over his warning, and demands that he should rather leave the brush and go. But he also ignores her, and stands his ground. Rong shoots some icicles that he unsuccessfully blocks. One of them hits the brush he tried to steal out of his pocket. It flies in the air and strikes Luo in the chest. He's sent to an internal dimension as the brush absorbs into his body. The power emanates from him as he glows green. Rong and the guy are shocked by this. The guy tries to attack Luo, commanding him to give him the brush back, but Luo instantly dodges. The intruder summons a tornado, but Luo chants some poetry. The words create a rainstorm that nullifies the tornado. Rong uses this opportunity to launch her offensive, which hits. This annoys the thief, who uses his brush to write a powerful attack that jets towards her. Luo interferes and erects a barrier. The guy uses the commotion to escape. Rong asks Luo how he's holding up, which he answers by fainting. He has a dream where he wakes up on a boat in a beautiful location with some quality happy juice. His little paradise comes crashing down when he is sent tumbling into the water by a tornado wave. He jolts from his dream, fearing for his life. A pink handkerchief falls from his forehead as he looks around the unfamiliar room, trying to grasp his surroundings. He's so happy that it is just a dream, and turns his attention straight to the handkerchief. As he sniffs it, an old voice informs him that he has slept for a long time. Rong and her grandfather enter the room, causing him to quickly put down the handkerchief. Mr. Wei voices that the young people of today are very weak compared to people from his time. He introduces himself and his granddaughter to the confused boy. Luo pleads to the old man to update him on what happened after his collapse. The pensioner calls him feeble, uttering that it was the cold artifacts in the shop that caused him to be knocked out when he entered. He refuses to believe that he is weak. The grandfather checks his pulse and confirms that he's fine now. Luo expresses his certainty that he saw Rong fighting against someone, which made the room's environment to change. He recalls the ink brush that went through his chest was the thing that knocked him out. The grandpa laughs his words off and calls it a common hallucination. He asks if the kid came thrift shopping, which prompts Luo to remember his primary aim for coming there. He asks about the pineapple texture wolf hairbrush. The old man informs him that he sold it to Zheng. The guy blames himself for failing in that critical moment. He excuses himself while being in a depressed state. But the grandpa and his daughter give each other a nod. Mr. Wei stops him as he confesses that he's responsible for his accident at the shop, so he decides to give him another ink brush to make amends. He explains that it is more precious than the one he wanted, and advises him to keep it well. He gets a vision of the incident again, and wonders if it was a hallucination. Rong averts her gaze again as she hands over the brush. With him out the door, the grandpa says that it is the best he can do for now. Meanwhile, at a historic village, crowds of tourists walk around exploring the place. A lady tries to use this as an opportunity to enter a restricted area. She is stopped from entering the gates by one of the guards. The lady pretends to be lost, so he gives her a map of the explorable areas. She comments on how nice the door is and takes a selfie with it. Above and below the structure, there is a temple dedicated to the brushes. In the interim, Luo still finds it hard to believe that what he experienced was just a vision. He makes his way to Mr. Ju's residence. Zheng hands over the pineapple texture wolf hairbrush. The teacher is impressed with the replacement. He smugly asks Luo to tell them what he has learned despite not getting a brush, but Luo shocks them and hands over the box to Mr. Jr. Mr. Ju can't believe his eyes when he opens it. Luo tells him to write with it. The teacher quickly sets up the area and sees how effortless it is to write with. Zheng is taken aback by Mr. Ju's reaction to the other brush. The teacher asks if he knows the 4 virtues of an ink brush. The teacher's pet lists them as neat, sharp, plump, and durable. Luo shocks himself when he takes over and goes into detail about each of the 4 virtues like a veteran. This impresses Mr. Ju, so he starts to talk about some other brush histories, which triggers Luo to have a vision of himself writing in Qinglian's room. He wonders if he's hallucinating again. The teacher commends Luo, calling him talented with how much he has learned about brushes in such a short time, but Luo is equally as shocked. After successfully saving himself from a demerit, he heads to the internet cafe where his friend Yan is the receptionist. The guy wonders why Luo is in such a good mood. Luo sits at his usual desk where he plays games. However, he's not having a good session. An ad pops up on his screen, and he's surprised that he can suddenly read the ancient characters. His attention is taken from the screen when some intoxicated hooligans come to beat Yan for embarrassing one of them in front of a girl. Everyone runs away, but Luo stays with his friend to fight. The hooligans attack and get the upper hand. Luo unconsciously activates his powers and blows two men away. The leader rushes towards him, but he knocks him back with the classic palm attack. He skillfully beats the rest and gives one of them some serious slaps that Jada Pinkett Smith is even considering marrying him. They can see they are outmatched and retreat. Yan commends Luo's fighting style, but the guy heads back to his desk, certain that his hallucinations were real events, and these powers are because of the brush. He checks online to find information, but ends up sleeping from exhaustion. He is visited by Qinglian in his dream, aggressively reciting a poem causing him to frantically wake up. Luo realizes it's late and logs out to head home, walking past his sleeping friend. While he walks the secluded streets, something calls his name, which makes him agitated. The light bulbs begin to burst as it gets close to him. He gets away and thinks it's a hallucination. Just as he relaxes, a monster appears and begins to strangle him. He tries to activate his powers and punches it, but it doesn't work. Rong enters his visual field as he loses consciousness. His eyes bulge as the monster continues to hold his neck tightly, but Rong knocks it back with an ice attack. This allows Luo to catch his breath before he loses consciousness. However, the creature kicks him into a lamppost. He's just ecstatic that he is still alive to feel the pain. Rong wants to know where the ink brush they gave him to keep is. She scowls at him when he reveals that he gave it away. Her attention turns back to the monster that proceeds towards them. The lady finishes it off by enshrouding it in ice. She casually walks over to it and uses her powers to turn it back into a brush before crushing it. The moonlight shines on her as she deactivates her power. Luo gushes like a fangirl at the sight of her, believing that he's in love. The following morning, she brings him back to the store, explaining that the monster that attacked him the previous night was an ink brush that was transformed by someone into a puppet creature and compelled to act. Rong reveals that people with such abilities are called brush puppeteers. Luo asks a series of questions about the nature of his newfound powers and wonders if he is going to be some kind of superhero. Rong leads him to the garden, revealing that her grandpa is there, and he will be the best person to answer his questions. The old man chuckles when he sees Luo, since it's their second meeting. The boy joins him, and Rong pours tea as he explains that the brush they gave him would have protected him against the puppet. Wei is mystified as to how Luo can give the brush away like that, because he would have met his demise if his granddaughter didn't intervene in time. Luo makes a good point that they lied to him regarding the situation, so they can't blame him for the actions he took. If he had known the truth, he wouldn't have given the brush away. Wei discloses that he lied because he didn't want him to get involved. Luo points out that his dishonesty put him in greater danger. The senior citizen concedes that it was an accident, but he will try his best to protect him going forward. He points out that Luo is just an average guy, so he should forget everything and live his NPC life. The level of danger involved in this situation is above the pay grade of a background character. Hearing this annoys Luo, so he highlights how Rong was defeated by Changqing Zhuge, the guy who attacked the shop. He was the one who ended up conquering the intruder, which forced the intruder to flee. Based on he doesn't feel like he's average. He notices them looking at him funny, so he changes his tune, stating that he feels like he must answer the call of duty. If he has being blessed with this power, he can't walk away from troubles, as it is not befitting of a man. This statement makes Wei laugh, and from their limited interaction, he can see that Luo is a headstrong young man who wouldn't back off until he's been told the full story. He expects Luo to make an informed decision after, so the old-timer uses his magic to illustrate his points. Things begin with the inventor of the pen known as Burial. He was an unknown scribe between the Qin and Han dynasty. During this tumultuous period, people burnt books and eliminated scholars. So this brave man came up with a method of sealing the spirits of the talented scholars in a pen, turning them into brush spirits. This was so that future generations could inherit them. Luo immediately wants to know who the scholar in his brush is. Wei informs him that it's Qinglian. The kid jumps up with excitement, looking for confirmation that he means the poetry king. This leads him to wonder if he's the king of all those who wield brushes. Rong shuts down the crazy conclusion, causing him to quietly sit and drink his tea. The grandpa continues and tells him that his green lotus ink brush has disappeared since the day it was made. Luo only has a trace of that power residing inside him, because the brush within him is the pen that Qinglian used to write a famous poem. It is not the original green lotus ink brush, so Luo is a little disappointed that he doesn't have the real thing. Wei springs into action when he senses a sinister presence among them. He attacks a man who exhibits a dark aura. As the two veterans exchange blows, Luo wonders what is going on. Wei identifies the man as Li, and is not too surprised that he showed up. The man came after seeing how badly Luo beat Changqing. Rong reveals that Li is the chief of the Zhuge family, and tells Luo that Li wants to eliminate him, so he can't underestimate that man for a moment. She joins her grandfather and assaults the chief, who easily blocks. The guy retaliates by firing a powerful attack that she recoils from. Luo the simp tries to throw himself in front of the attack, but Grandpa, who is a real Sigma Ultra Giga Chad, is around and counters. Lee informs them that the 7 legendary brushes will be his, so he has no intention of letting them have them. He shoots a flurry of spirit balls at them, but Wei nullifies them with his shots. All the while, Rong drops some exposition that the 7 superior brush spirits are made by the inventor of the pen burial technique. However, they have been lost to time. Qinglin's green lotus ink brush is among them. These 7 brush spirits connect through their auras. The green lotus remnant in Luo deeply relates to the original brush, so it is very important to treasure hunters if they want to find it. The only way to split the ink brush from the host is to eliminate them. The fight between the 2 veterans has been raging on, and Wei has been losing. Rong orders Luo to run, while she helps her grandpa stall Li. Luo gets offended that she even suggested that shortly after, Wei is knocked to the floor and the chief follows up with the finishing blow. Luo quickly activates his power, which blocks the attack and knocks Li back. The chief confirms that it is indeed the remnant power of the Green Lotus. Wei tells Luo that he can't fight Li at his current level. The kid turns to inform the old man that he can't walk away from them either. Their conversation ends abruptly when Li uses his powers to grab Luo by the neck and lift him into the air. I feel like this guy has a thing for being handled by the neck. The guy gasps while he tries to break free. The chief leaps up to execute his elimination blow, but Wei uses himself as a human shield. This gives him an opening to land a strike that releases Luo from Li's hold. The chief begins to disappear as he laughs, wondering how long they think they can protect Luo, while Rong rushes to her granddad. He assures Luo that he will be fine. Rong asks about his condition, and he informs her that he's okay. The old man reveals that the Zhug family is known to be cunning, corrupt, and merciless. Wei reveals that it was only Li's doppelganger that they faced, so there are still many dangers ahead. He feels like they have to quickly figure out how to split the brush spirit from Luo, but in the meanwhile, he should learn how to control the brush spirit so that he can protect himself should anything happen to them. Luo points out that Mr. Wei almost sacrificed himself for him, so there is no chance that he will abandon them. He promises to learn how to control his power, not only so he can protect himself but also them. He wants to take the burden too. These words touch the grandpa and daughter. Rong volunteers to protect him while also training him to allow her grandfather to recover from his injuries. The thought of having Rong as his bodyguard makes him blush. He even starts to think that she might not dislike him since she offered to protect him. That night, the lady at the historical tourist city returns and knocks out the guards watching the gate she wanted to enter earlier. Shortly after the alarm goes off, she notices that brushes have been stolen from the pen library. The lady runs off into the woods calling them idiots. The following morning, Luo heads to school with Rong and gets all the attention because he's with such an attractive lady. Even Zheng spits out his drink when he sees them together. After their lecture, they head to the library to borrow some poetry that Luo must memorize. He tries to make a joke about it, but it falls flatter than that one girl's body from the VRMMO anime. Zheng joins them and tries to belittle Luo in front of Rong, hoping to win her over, but she's rather disgusted by his behavior and stands up for Luo, even holding his hand as they leave. The two sit somewhere quiet, where Rong reveals that various scholars are transformed into different brush spirits with distinct auras. They normally choose someone in sync with their nature, or they can live in a very ignorant host like Luo. It's the latter situation that is making it difficult for Luo to bring out the best out of his brush. Colorless ink brushes also have spiritual power and are excellent. Unbeknownst to them, Zheng heard everything and is interested in attaining his brush spirit. Giving his talent for poetry, he expects greatness from himself. All the while, Luo's boredom while reading ancient literature becomes apparent when he lets out a big yawn. He looks over to Rong, asking if this is necessary. She explains that the green lotus brush remnant derives from Qinglin, so understanding him is the best way to forge a bond between him and the scholar. Luo's level of understanding of poetry is too low to tackle the literature that Qinglian wrote, so he must start with the material he has been given. The guy pleads for a break since he has been working so hard. Rong sarcastically informs him that he can rest forever when the people from the Zhuge family come for him. The trauma of Li's attack kicks him back into work mode, but he wonders if he will get any more help from Rong's allies. The lady informs him that no one wants a confrontation with the Zhuge family. He can't believe that he's being targeted by the final boss when he's only a freshman in all of this. He complains about his lack of experience, so Rong gives him some more exposition. The power of every brush spirit is affected by the trait of the scholar that resides inside. The host has a bigger chance of successfully connecting with it if they can find and understand this trait. Once mastered, one can choose the appropriate counter based on the power of the enemy's brush. Luo struggles to understand this concept, so she gives a practical example using Changqing's Cloud Rider ink brush, which is the spirit of a famous poet from the Han dynasty who resides inside. He was so great that he was dubbed as the spirit that soars upon the Sky Emperor. As such, the Cloud Rider can evoke the cloud and wind. Luo uses this opportunity to impress Rong by detailing the scholar and trait that corresponds to her snowstorm ink brush. He has his ancient literature teacher to thank for this display of knowledge. The aim to get to know Rong better works as it made her to smile. His lack of riz is on full display when he takes it as a cue to get closer to Rong, but she puts him back in his place by throwing his book at his head. The lady advises him to study Qinglian's writing if he has the time for such wishful thinking, such as courting her. He pleads for her not to shut him down all the time. The guy changes the topic, asking about the creator of the pen burial technique and the pen burial scribes. Rong explains that the creator of the burial technique hid and refined brush spirits in a secret place after gathering them. He sent scribes to travel in place of him. Luo noticed that these brush spirits come from different dynasties, so the creator of the technique must have lived for very long. He wonders if pen refinement also created immortality. Rong states that the pioneer deserved to be a half-immortal because he is wise and aspirational with other great traits. She takes shots at him, saying that the pioneer is everything that Luo isn't, and this offends him. So he begins to criticize the creator of the burial technique, expressing that he doesn't see his greatness. Rong is not surprised, as she does not expect him to comprehend it. The guy admits that he doesn't have his level of talent. However, he can discern some things. He asks if this wise pioneer benefited people or made any contribution to society. Luo believes that he refined pens and expanded the group only based on his selfish desires. Rong lets him know that he supported the inheritance of their cultural heritage. Luo has the opinion that he was just hiding behind that grandeur excuse. The sage just kept the brushes as his private antiques. He asks her if they can be classed as cultural heritage if the brushes are hidden somewhere. Luo finds it sad that such fine souls are refined into brush spirits, where they are trapped in the creator's private collection or compelled by others. He's not surprised that Qinglian's green lotus ink brush flew away. His sentiments activate his powers, which makes a spirit dear to manifest. The creature leaps on the pond surface before disappearing. It gets Luo excited. This display has a different meaning for Rong. She gives him the go-ahead to move on to the next piece of literature. Luo is more concerned with her being angry at him, so he rushes to make sure that he's still in her good books. All the while, Zheng sits in his room frustrated that someone as talented as him can't find a single clue to the brush spirit after studying for so long. He cannot contain his anger when the thought of Luo attaining one comes to his mind. He later calls his uncle to link him up with Miss Qin, a lady they met at an antique brush gathering. He has a brush that she will be interested in. During that interim, Rong escorts Luo to his dorm, which catches the attention of all the guys around. He gets embarrassed by all the attention and suggests they head to the internet cafe. She reads a book while others entertain themselves with the screen. Yan pulls Luo to the side and commends him on pulling a world-class beauty. Luo informs him that he has the wrong idea about what is going on. Yan introduces himself and offers her a hot drink. Luo is a little taken aback seeing her using the computer since she lives in a completely different world compared to the average person. She agrees and responds that people like her have had endless training since they were little, so it can be hard to do normal people things sometimes. Luo decides to help her unwind a little by teaching her how to play a game. They play their first round, and Rong is already better than him. She reveals that it is a lot easier than controlling the brush spirit and hints for him to get back to reading his literature. Rong discloses that the brush within him manifests the poetry of Qinglian as it's packed with imagery. This means the more poems he recites, the more powerful he can be. She informs him that he needs to understand it too. Luo promises that he will not let her down, but his enthusiasm slowly diminishes as he reads the pages. He ends up sleeping and is woken up by his recurring dream where he's visited by Qinglian reciting a poem. He finds Rong sleeping at the table, so he places his jacket over her and joins Yan, who is surprised to see a lady of her age sleeping so early. Luo informs him that she's not your usual girl. His friend thinks that this is love talking. Yan advises him not to take her to the next cafe all the time, and should also go to places she likes to visit to make things easier on him. Luo expresses his gratitude for the help. His attention turns back to his current situation. Luo feels like he can protect himself now that he's in sync with his brush and can recite enough poems. If he can also get the coreless ink brush back, Rong will not be forced to follow him around. He calls Mr. Zhu to make an excuse to get the brush back, but the teacher informs him that Zheng also called him earlier to borrow it, so he has it now. Luo learns that Zheng is out currently. The lad guesses that he must be at his uncle's place to study the brush, so heads over there. He leaves Yan to look after Rong while she sleeps. Luo arrives at the shop and is surprised to see the door open. He sneaks in and trips over the unconscious uncle who lies on the ground battered. Luo checks to make sure the guy is alive, and as he prepares to call emergency services, the uncle mutters for him to save Zheng, pointing to the main building. The lad suddenly gets a sharp sensation in his chest, notifying him that something is wrong. He plays a high IQ move by turning his phone on silent, because we all know that our phones be ringing at the worst possible times. Luo peeks inside and finds Zheng is in a terrible state, looking like a zombie on crack. Miss Chin discusses that the coreless ink brush takes more time to refine compared to common ones. She is revealed to be the mysterious lady who stole a brush from the tourist site. The lady promises to make him into her brush puppet. Luo thinks fast and realizes that he can still be saved since the process has not yet been completed. If he was to call wrong, she would not make it in time, and he can't confront Miss Chin alone since she's more powerful. So he decides to pretend to be a member of the Zhug family, but Miss Chin calls his deception. This prompts him to show that he has a spirit brush by releasing his power. He informs her that Li is angry by her action. Miss Chin falls in line and begins to apologize for taking advantage. Luo makes a mistake that she picks up on. She finds it amusing that she was tricked like that. She captures him with her spirit chains, which numbs his limbs. Miss Chin praises the guy for his acting, but she feels that liars need to be punished. She doesn't care which brush spirit is inside of him. She will just end him and take it. Things continue as Luo confesses that he underestimated her because he didn't know she had a mighty brush spirit. Miss Chin reveals that she has an angular ink brush that was refined by a famous scholar from Western Jin. While she explains the history of her brush, Luo tries to use his powers to counter the effects of her chain, but it doesn't work. The brush thief demonstrates how her powers affect all the 5 senses. By making his body itchy, she then triggers soreness, numbness, and arousal. The lady gets bored after messing with him and begins to end him by wrapping her chain around his neck. She lifts him into the air as the collar constricts his neck. Miss Chin laughs at his anguish as Luo thinks about his death. This triggers him to recite the poem that Qinglian always utters when he visits him in his dreams. As he says the words, power builds up in his body, which causes him to crack the collar first. This soon spreads down the chain, leaving Miss Chin in utter disbelief. Luo's power explodes when he finishes the poem, which shatters the chain. The shockwave also blows her back. She recognizes it as the remnant of the green lotus brush. Luo hovers in the air as the lotus flower appears behind him. The sun begins to rise, which reminds him of one of Qinglian's famous poems. As he recites it, a cloud attacks Miss Chin. She manages to dodge and tries to counter by manifesting her brush into a dragon, but Luo nullifies them with some water bending. She recalls her brush and turns them into twin blades, but the lady realizes that she will not get the chance to use her weapon when Luo overwhelms her with a giant flood. He tries to follow up with another attack, but his powers suddenly deactivate, resulting in him holding his chest in pain as he lands on the ground. As he recovers, he notices that Miss Chin dropped something. He gets closer to retrieving the item as her abandoned blades disintegrate. The guy places the item in his back pocket, claiming it as his own. Luo remembers that Zheng is in a bad state and goes to check on him. Meanwhile, Rong wakes up from her nap and demands to know Luo's location because she can sense that he's in danger. Yan honestly informs her that he doesn't know where the guy has gone. They get their answer when Luo comes in, holding Zheng with Uncle Zhao also helping. The item falls from his back pocket as they proceed to the back room to lay him down. Luo explains to Rong that he was planning on getting the coreless ink brush from Mr. Zhu when the teacher informed him that Zheng had it. He went to this place and found a woman refining him into a brush puppet. Rong uses her power to assess the damage. She reveals that apart from his brain, his entire body has been devoured by the coreless ink brush. The only thing she can do now is slow down the refinement. Her explanation is interrupted when Zheng's father barges in with his bodyguards. He orders them to send him to the hospital when he sees his condition. Uncle Zhao is the one who alerted his brother. Zheng's father identifies Luo and introduces himself before thanking him for saving his son. However, he doesn't approve that they brought him to the internet cafe. He hands Luo some money as a show of his gratitude and advises him not to go astray. The guy tries to play the Good Samaritan card and wants to reject the money, but Zheng's father insists he take it. As soon as he leaves, he flexes the money to the other two with a smug grin. Rong is more interested in finding out how he saved his classmate. Yan heads out to lock the internet cafe, while the other two discuss in the back room. After hearing Luo's explanation, Rong is impressed that he resonated with his brush in such a tense situation, but she points out that he was supposed to recite gloomy and depressing verses because the remnant brush was used by Qinglian on his deathbed. But Luo got carried away just reciting other topics, which threw him out of rhythm, resulting in the deactivation of his power. She warns him not to engage an unknown foe again, and advises him to be mindful of the poems he chooses to recite in the future. He acknowledges her words, but is just happy that he won. He remembers that Qin left an item behind, and reaches into his pocket to retrieve it. However, he can't find it. Simultaneously, Yan spots the item on the floor and opens it out of curiosity. A red spirit brush jets out of the container and flies around the place. The commotion prompts the other two to rush out. As soon as they come out, the brush enters Yan, knocking him unconscious for a moment. Rong immediately inspects the container and informs a worried Luo that Yan has just connected with a brush spirit. After a moment of blushing and drooling, Yan suddenly regains consciousness. He assures Luo that he's fine before he asks. Yan pulls his friend to the side and questions if he's on the good or evil side. Now that he has a brush, he understands that Luo and Rong are in their secret world, where everyone has mystic superpowers. The attendant confirms that these powers come with duties and hits Luo for keeping something so exciting from him. He turns to Rong and assumes that he's the newly chosen member of their group. He points out that it might be dangerous to leave Jung unattended in case someone comes to hurt him again. He stops Rong from talking and states that saving a life is the bigger issue. He pushes them out the door into the hospital. While they wait to see Jung, Rong explains the history of the brush spirits to Yan. He wants to know about his brush, but she informs him that he has to figure out that on his own as she has no clue. Yan's eyes glow red as his fear of blood is shown with the patients and nurses bleeding due to different circumstances. The tip of his fingers glows red as he wonders if he has awakened his power. Rong stops Luo from touching his friend because Yan's abilities might be destructive. Their attention is drawn to a dark cloud that approaches them with multicolored threads coming out of it. Yan worries that he can't control it as he thinks this is his doing. Rong points out that this is the work of a 5-colored brush, which casts hallucinations. She warns everyone to keep their wits. Yan and Luo have already been captured by the blue threads and are having pleasant visions. The thread comes for her too, but she uses her powers to deflect them. However, she is still apprehended and shown her worst fear as spiders engulf her. Rong's screams triggers Luo to break free. The energy wave emitted also releases Yan. He rushes over and uses his powers to dispel the illusions. An evil laugh comes from the black mist. The caster of the spell is not surprised that Luo's abilities nullify his. Rong figures out that cyan is being used, and Lotus is the source of cyan. This is why Luo's powers are so effective against it. She creates an ice wall to prevent more threads from getting to them. She explains that the yellow thread arouses one's lust, cyan triggers one's fear, and the red one arouses one's weakness. She warns the boys to be careful. Their attacker is surprised that they still have time to talk among themselves. He breaks through the ice, but Rong gets in front of the boys and blocks the threads. All the while Yan tries to activate his powers but has no success. Luo is shown his fear of heights. Yan snaps him out of it by tripping him up. He regains consciousness just in time to put a barrier around Rong before she's touched by the threads. From their exchange, Rong guesses that he's from the Zhuge family. The attacker expresses his disappointment in the abilities of the host of the Green Lotus Brush Remnant. Rong blocks his attacks again and uses poetry to insult him. This annoys the Zhuge family member. He retaliates by unleashing some brush puppets. The trio engages them and holds them off till Rong is hit with a red thread. Luo is pierced from the back while he tries to bring her back to her senses. He pushes her to safety just before the puppet hurls him into Yan. This event triggers Yan to activate his powers. Luo is completely healed, including his ripped shirt. Rong is also knocked into his arms and her wounds heal upon contact. 2 of his fingers lose their glow, presumably because he has used his ability twice. She informs him that he saved both her and Luo. He tests his new powers by healing himself while taking heavy damage from fighting the remaining puppets. The other 2 watch on as he intensely brawls his way through to the caster of the spell. The overweight-looking misfit stumbles backward in shock as Yan punches him to the ground. He cowers in fear, asking Yan to spare him. The remaining puppets try to attack him from behind, but Rong comes in and freezes them. The Zhuge family member tries to use this as an opportunity to attack Yan with some red threads, but the guy casually blows them away. He states that he has a big heart that leaves no room for trauma. The other 2 join Yan and drop the disarmed brushes in front of the loser. He notices that Yan's power is still active and pretends to surrender. This gives him a moment to grab Yan's hand in hopes that he will be healed, but he's knocked back and rather gives him an ailment as he lies there pretending to be unconscious. He quickly gets up and retreats when he gets the chance, promising them that he will be back. Rong suggests they let him flee, as it's not good to press an enemy who's retreating. Everything returns to normal as the black mist dissipates. Yan concludes that normal people can't see the illusion based on how everyone else is getting on with their day, like nothing happened. Luo gives a sigh of relief as he thanks his friend for the save. Yan teases him, stating that he will do anything for Rong. He looks at her and says that it's his job to be the hero. Rong feels differently as she warns him not to do that ever again. She voices that she doesn't need other people sacrificing their lives for her. As she walks off, Yan tells a sad Luo that she's just being shy. To take his mind off, he suggests he go check on Jung. The guy gets to the door and overhears Mr. Ju asking his master for some advice. He enters thinking that there is someone else in the room, but no one is there. The 2 exchange pleasantries before the teacher explains that the coreless ink brush was first created by the renowned brushmaker Zhuge Gao. This is why it is also known as the Zhuge brush. He doesn't think that the lad should have risked his life just to learn more about the brush. After chatting with his teacher, he decides to walk him out as a show of respect. Yan is placed in charge of looking after Jung. As soon as the coast is clear, Yan enters and tries to use his power to heal the guy, but it doesn't work. After seeing his teacher off, he finds it ironic that the Zhuge's family brush is protecting him when they are trying to end his life. He decides to look for Wrong and overhears her talking on the phone, confirming that Luo took her bait and that he believes everything she says so he can be easily manipulated. He confronts her on what he just heard. She bluntly alludes to an ulterior motive, revealing that that is the only reason she is hanging out with an idiot like him. Things continue as Wrong gets a little scolding from her grandfather for calling him at that moment because he knows her to be a smart girl. She confesses that she wasn't thinking at that time. Mr. Wei sighs before explaining that they have no other choice but to come in the hard way. If he doesn't want the soft way, his words make his granddaughter to gasp in shock. He asks her to put him to bed because he's tired. As soon as she does so and leaves, the old man turns over and retrieves a piece of paper from under the bed. All the while, Luo leaves the hospital thinking about Wrong's explanation about how her grandfather set up the arrangement of her helping him to control his brush to build trust. Since Luo has the remnant green lotus brush, they intended to use him to track the 7 legendary brushes. The fact that he was willing to sacrifice his life for her took her by surprise. She concluded that a host of a spirit brush is easier to manipulate than a brush puppeteer. The flashback ended with him screaming in frustration because she's been lying to him this whole time. He reckons that the whole allure of beautiful women is a lie. He wishes his mother warned him about them. His stride is blocked by the appearance of Miss Chin. She sarcastically comments on how it's a coincidence to run into him at the hospital. Luo calls out the cat because he already knows that she would come to find Zheng. She corrects him, revealing that she came to retrieve the brush spirit he took from her. The lady condescendingly tells him that it's wrong to steal from people, which is ironic because she stole it herself. Luo informs her that he gave it to Li, so she should ask him, but the lady already knows that he's not part of the Zhug family. She guesses that he's from the Wei family. He gets triggered hearing that name after what Wrong confessed to him. Qin picks up on his resentment and guesses that he's having trouble with them. Luo tries to look away, but it is written all over his body. Since he's alone now, she suggests they team up and find the 7 legendary brushes. They will split the fruits of their labor 50-50. After being deceived by Wrong, he calls all women liars. From his speech, she guesses that he had his heart broken by Wrong and begins to tease him. Qin remarks on how easy it is to read him. She suggests he work with her, and she will cure Zheng. Luo knows that she's plotting something, but decides to join forces. If she saves Zheng first, she quickly agrees and drags him to get the life-saving tool with her. He plans to ditch her after she cures him. Luo stands behind her on high alert as she searches for the artifact. The lady presents it to Luo, so the guy drops his guard as he inspects it. This gives her the chance to hit him with a taser. He falls to the floor stunned and collapses soon after. Qin smugly looks at her handiwork as she comments on how women have him wrapped around their little fingers. She binds and throws him in the back of her car, calmly driving past Wrong, who makes her way back to the hospital. She holds the piece of paper that her grandfather was looking at earlier. The lady recalls the shock on her face when she read its contents. She was quick to jot down some information. All the while, Yan comes back up to Zheng's floor after trying to rizz up some of the nurses, and is confused when he doesn't spot anyone. He's happy to see Wrong when he emerges from the other side and asks her about his friend. Meanwhile, Luo regains consciousness and tries to wiggle his way out of his restraints. He tries to use his brush power, but she put a talisman on his chest, preventing him from activating his powers. The guy sees that she didn't take his phone, so he uses voice commands to instruct his phone to call Yan. It finally calls him after misbehaving for a while. Before he can confirm if his friend has picked, the car comes to a stop. Miss Chin opens the boot and smiles. Surprised that he's awake, he notices that it's nighttime. She drags him to Farron Temple and informs him that it's going to be the place he's going to meet his end. She wants his brush as compensation for the one she lost. Luo shifts back, but he is pinned to a tombstone. Qin launches her finishing strike, but it is nullified by a power-imbued bead. Master Baidi steps out saying hello to all present. He reveals that long ago, Miss Qin assaulted people and stole brushes in the Wei mansion. He's a little shocked that she's still living that lifestyle. He labels her action as a sin. The master turns to his student Zhu and orders him to knock out the thief. The guy wastes no time rushing to face her. He gives his respects before attacking, and as she deflects his blows, she frees Luo, promising not to hurt him if he helps her fend them off. He gets excited at first, and then remembers who's making the promise. He casually rests against one of the stones as she gets overwhelmed by Zhu. The guy is so quick that he doesn't even give her the chance to use her brush spirit. Zhu gets in the position to land the final blow, but stops and asks her to get up so that they start fighting the next round. Luo doesn't approve of his ethical ways. His master also feels the same as he instructs Zhu not to show mercy to people like her. The student continues his assault with more aggression this time. Qin uses Luo as an authentic human shield, forcing Zhu to stop his assault. This gives her the opportunity to use her power to bind his arm to rip it off. She pushes Luo into Zhu and makes her escape before Baidi can interfere. Zhu helps Luo up, and the master uses the bead to cancel Qin's hold on his student. The bead returns to its place. Baidi wants to know why his student hesitated to finish her off. Ju explains to his master that he was ordered to attack Miss Chin, not Luo. Baidi accepts his explanation and introduces himself and Ju to Luo. He also returns the gesture informing them that he's a university student. Baidi gestures for Ju to pick up the talisman that was placed on Luo. He asks if it was placed on him to restrict his brush spirit. The lad averts his gaze as he states that he doesn't have a brush spirit. The master reads the talisman and is stunned to see that Luo has the green lotus brush remnant. The poem written on the paper wouldn't affect the original brush. Luo feels threatened by them and begins to activate his power. Baidi tries to calm him down, explaining that they mean no harm. He doesn't believe them and continues to recite a poem to attack with. Baidi shouts for him to stop, which makes Luo's attack to disappear. The master pats him on the shoulder and explains that he disrupted his rhythm. If he continues to force himself, he will get hurt, and Luo will get weak as he asks what they want from him. Baidi reveals that Luo's brush has not shown up in a long time. A lot of hosts scramble for the legendary brushes so that they can reopen the pen burial ritual. The master is shocked that Luo was not aware of this given the importance of the brush he holds. The lad informs Baidi that he was just looking to replace his teacher's brush before he got thrown into this world. Luo explains his entire story to the two, and Baidi comments on how excellent his adventure has been so far. He's just surprised that Mr. Wei is still alive. He reveals his first name to be Sharan, so that is what we are going to call him from now on. Luo is surprised to hear the full name of Rong's grandfather. Both Rong and Sharan are part of the Wei family. Baidi reveals that 20 years ago, the Wei family was in turmoil due to some succession problems. Because he didn't become the family head, he used the turmoil to turn the kin against each other, causing heavy casualties. After causing all the mayhem, he disappeared. Luo can't believe he got tricked by the old-timer. Baidi speculates that he must have gone into hiding because of the green lotus brush remnant. Their conversation comes to a sudden stop when the master senses that someone is in the shadows. Ju springs into action and begins to engage the person. Luo hears the voice and recognizes it. As he gets closer to the commotion, he identifies the intruder as Yan and shouts for them to stop. Luo introduces the newcomer as his friend and the host of a brush spirit. Yan gives his greetings, but Luo wants to know how he found him. The friend smirks and reveals that it was his phone that led him to this location because he heard everything that was going on. Luo removes his phone and ends the call, since Miss Chin stole the brush spirit from the Wei family. Yan is sure that Baidi knows that the brush is inside of him. The master reveals that it is the eyebrow drawing brush by Chang of the Han dynasty. His wife lost the tail of her eyebrow, so he used the brush to draw some for her every day. Yan blushes as he thinks about it. He regains his sense when he remembers that Rong wants him to show Luo something. As he removes it from his pocket, Ju informs his master that someone else is coming through the gate. The three boys hide behind a tree while Baidi puts up a barrier that camouflages them. Changqing enters with a beaten-up individual. The guy throws his victim to the floor. He runs his fingers across the stone as he states that this is a place where aura gathers. Baidi explains that Farron Temple was built for martyrs. The temple was also becoming a spirit shelter during the Republican period. The area emanates depression and sorrow. This makes it the perfect place to pull out brush spirits, which is why Miss Chin brought him. Changqing brings out a tool that resonates. He throws it above his victim and begins the ritual to remove the guy's brush. Luo gets goosebumps thinking about how that could have been him. Changqing prepares to carve out the pen when all the lads shout for him to stop. Baidi sighs because they have just given up their cover. Changqing points his blade at Luo, surprised to see him in this location. He lets out a sinister laugh, ready to engage them. Things continue with Changqing, thanking his lord for bringing the green lotus brush vestige to him. With his situation, he can obtain 2 of the 7 legendary brushes at once. Based on his addition, everyone concludes that the person he brought to the end has one of the legendary brushes. Baidi is surprised by the degeneration of the Zhug family for them to be taking people's lives just to obtain their brushes. Changqing is not interested in hearing his opinion and attacks to shut him up. Luo tries to counter by activating his powers, but it fails. Ju notices the deficiency and intercepts with a hit that knocks back Changqing. The monk explains that the aura in the area is stagnant, and Luo doesn't have the skills to bypass this while channeling his power. The fact he was also panicking didn't help his case. Changqing gestures for Ju to come at him, which the apprentice responds to. The brush thief summons a gust of wind around his hand and unleashes it against his opponent. Baidi reacts quickly, putting up a shield that blocks the attack. Changqing scoffs, a little impressed that the monk can fight on this level, despite not having a brush spirit. Lu and Yan are shocked to hear this. The fight between the other two continues as Ju narrowly evades Changqing's strikes. The apprentice eventually gets the upper hand when he disarms the evildoer. This annoys Changqing, who fires a wind blast at Ju. The student quickly retreats behind his master's barrier and jets back out to the counter when the attack is dispelled. He throws a flurry of kicks and punches, which creates an opening for him to land a hit on Changqing. The pen thief gets agitated, letting out a shout along with a burst of power. He laughs as he converts that power into his next attack. Ju falls behind his master's shield again, as Changqing punches the concentrated strike at the barrier. Bai Dai manages to block it, but his barrier is broken in the process, which causes some internal damage to him. Everyone quickly rushes over to check if he's fine. Yan tries to use his abilities to heal him, but the cooldown for his powers hasn't ended yet. Changqing wastes no time as he prepares another attack to finish them off. Bai Dai musters the last of his strength, activating all his beads to create a more robust shield. He orders his student to get everyone out of harm's way, and Changqing unleashes a volley of attacks that overwhelms the master. Luo breaks his fall, but the pen thief follows up with another attack. Ju dives in front like a 90s action movie star. The bad guy then turns his attention to Luo as he easily captures him. Yan attempts to interfere, but he's kicked to the ground. Changqing throws Luo to the floor and retrieves his knife, promising to get his revenge for his previous defeat. The first victim reaches over to Luo pleading for his help, but Changqing takes his life, causing the pen extraction process to begin. The pen thief reveals that Luo is next. As Yan recovers from his attack, he notices that one of his fingers is glowing. During that interval, Changqing finishes the extracting ritual, revealing the fact that he has obtained the pupil-marking ink brush. Bai Dai overhears this, and discloses that the brush is from Zhang Sengyu. The pen thief pulls out his blade and turns his attention to Luo. Yan comes in with a powerful kick which forces their opponent to back off. He excitedly shows Luo his finger. I think they forget that they are in the middle of a fight, because Changqing comes back and grabs Yan by the head for interrupting the fight. He also repels Luo when he tries to help. Yan takes the opportunity to use his powers on Changqing, but he ends up touching the pen holder instead. This unleashes the pupil-marking ink brush, while the pen thief tries to retrieve it. Luo makes his way over to his friend to make sure that he's fine. Yan is more confused about the true nature of his abilities. Luo believes that his brush gives him the power to turn back time. This explains his ability to heal wounds and release the pen from its container. These guys have no battle awareness because Changqing is allowed to pull and stamp on Luo, and the student tries to fight back using his power. He manages to lift the leg just before Changqing lands the attack. This allows it to be shot toward the pen, knocking it free. The pupil-marking ink brush drives down and enters Luo to everyone's bewilderment. The new brush encircles the green lotus ruminating within his body, and Changqing quickly retrieves his blade. He feels the new brush opening his tendons and veins. Luo summons a dragon and asks the pen thief to relinquish ownership of his Cloud Rider ink brush too. Changqing steps back worried as Luo sends the spirit dragon to attack. Changqing makes a strategic withdrawal before the attack can hit its mark. The sun begins to rise as Luo deactivates his power. Yan rushes over to his friend, congratulating him for utilizing the pupil-marking ink brush so quickly. Luo falls to the ground exhausted and relieved that the thief has left. He tells Yan that he used his green lotus brush to create that last attack. He currently doesn't know how the pupil-marking ink brush works. Luo is still shocked by the lawlessness in this world, if some can be eliminated just to steal their brush. Bai Dai makes his way over to Luo to perform a wellness check on him. The master can't believe that he has 2 brush spirits. The lad complains that 1 brush is enough trouble for him. Bai Dai reveals that no one has ever owned 2 brush spirits at the same time. Yan hypes up his friend, calling him the chosen one. The closest to this was a legend of someone forcibly trying to absorb multiple brush spirits in the past, but he passed away suddenly. Hearing this makes him panic. He also complains about how so many people are already targeting him and worries his life will end sooner rather than later. He gets a little depressed at the thought that the only way he be split from these brushes is for his life to end. Hearing this reminds Yan that he has something for his friend, so he assures him that there is still hope. He gives Luo a piece of paper and informs him that Rong wanted it to be given to him. It reveals a safe way to split the brush spirit from the host. Her grandfather discovered this technique a while ago. The two read it, and it happens to be a riddle. Bai Dai sees them struggling to decode it and offers to look. While he does so, Yan tells Luo that Rong expressed her concern for him. He doesn't feel like she's going to hurt him and advises him to talk with her when he gets back so that he can figure out how to split the brush spirit. Luo prefers to keep his distance given how she spoke to him. He's not sure if her current actions are genuine or if she's just trying to lure him back intentionally. The master interrupts them to reveal that the riddle mentions 2 places that were called pen burial sites. However, he has never heard of a way to safely split a brush spirit from its host. Bai Dai offers to get Luo an audience with the elders from his village. There are a lot of ancient books there, so they might be able to clarify things for him. He decides to take up the offer after some quick deliberation with his friend. They head to the airport first, where Bai Dai sends Yan and Zhu to the Yangshin Temple and the Green Sky Nunnery, since they are the 2 pen burial locations alluded to. They are to go there and investigate, and while they do that, the monk and Luo head to the Wei family house. Upon their arrival, he is shocked to find that their place is a tourist site. Bai Dai explains that it is the main income generation machine for the family. They are greeted by Bai Dai's uncle Dingguo. His uncle informs of the brush spirit's return and asks his nephew to participate. They quickly change the topic to the urgent matter they must discuss with the chief. On their way, Luo wants to know about the brush spirit's return. Baidi briefly explains it as a talent selection ceremony held regularly in the village. Those who are favored by the brush spirits become the hosts of those pens. He finishes the explanation just as they arrive at the chief's quarters. Luo notices that the old man is in a wheelchair. Luo is shocked to find out that Baide is the son of the chief when he begins his report. After hearing them out, Luo summons both his brushes, and the chief is surprised because Luo's experience is unique and rare. The fact that he has had 2 brushes in his system for so long, and nothing has happened to him, means they don't need to panic. Luo is still on edge because the side effects could have an incubation, and this phenomenon can't be explained with science. The chief speculates that he may have something special physically, and if it was utilized well, he could achieve amazing things. Luo is not interested in risking his life for that. Baidi informs his father that Luo is just an ordinary person that was involved in their world accidentally. The monk doesn't think that he can cope with some of the demands of this lifestyle, so he suggests that they help him split the brush spirits from him safely so that they can avoid future dangers. The chief gives his answer when he activates his powers, which summons roots that engulf Baidi and Luo in their chair. The son pleads with his dad, reminding him that Luo came because he trusted that they could help him. He alerts him that this is no way for him to be treating a guest. The chief reveals that his brush spirit, Dufu, looked up to Li Bai during his life. Now that Dufu is an autumn breeze ink brush, the chief won't let Luo leave with the green lotus brush so easily. Luo believes that he has been set up, so Baidi tries to free himself to show that he's not part of this, but his father warns him that he can't win. The old-timer explains that the ability to contain multiple brush spirits cannot be underestimated. Even though they are yet to confirm if Luo possesses this ability, he can't miss the opportunity to strengthen the Wei family, and he also can't let anyone else have it. As he leaves them in that state, he wonders how much longer his broken body can hold on. Dingo later joins his brother and advises him to reconsider because following the will of their ancestors is breaking their family. The stress causes a little flare-up of his illness. After resting and rethinking, he returns to his office and releases his son and Luo from their bondage. He has decided to allow the young ones to make their own decisions. As an apology for his hostile actions, he reveals the power of the pupil marking brush. He pulls out a piece of paper and instructs Luo to summon the brush. The old man reveals that the brush has the power of prophecy. He tells Luo that if he ever feels lost in life, the brush can help point him in the right direction. The paper levitates to the pen, prompting Luo to ask what he is to do next. As it writes, he notices that one hair has fallen from it, so he asks why, and the old man tells him that every time he uses the pupil marking brush, a little bit of his lifespan is taken. When the brush loses all its hairs, the host dies, so he warns Luo to only use it sparingly. The brush finishes its response in the form of a poem. The chief explains that the brush only identifies the best possible direction, and what the person does with that information is up to them. Baidi speculates that the brush might be hinting that splitting them from Luo is the right choice. The guy agrees because he doesn't want to be a part of this anymore. The conversation ends abruptly when the chief's autumn breeze ink brush leaves his body, bringing an end to his life. Baidi cries when he confirms that his father's pulse has gone. The story continues when one of the maids opens the study door to see that the chief has passed on. Baidi instructs her to be quiet, because the one responsible might still be around. The lady shouts that Baidi and Luo have eliminated the chief. Luo tries to stop her, but she's long gone, calling for help along the way. The monk concludes that they have been framed, so they leave the area before other clanspeople arrive, who confirm the chief's demise. Dingguo orders them to close the road leading out of the village. All the while, Baidi casually leads Luo to a shrine where they proceed through a secret passage. Luo uses his phone's flashlight to give them extra visibility. The Wei family brush library is the only place they can hide for now. It holds all the free brush spirits collected by the village. The area is extremely confidential, so no one is allowed inside without the chief's consent, and with the recent passing of the chief, it will be difficult for them to decide whether it's possible to enter. This period of uncertainty should give them enough time to find a way out. Miss Chin didn't come out from the front after entering the brush library when she infiltrated to steal, so he's sure there is a secret exit. Luo finds the discreet button that gives access to the library. Baidi takes a closer look and activates it, which opens the door. The monk warns him that aside from the brushes, there are mechanisms set to test the participants' abilities during their clan's brush spirit selection event. Baidi can't clear his name if he stays, so he must escape and find a way to prove his innocence. This is the least he can do for his late father. The duo enters inside, and Luo is in awe of the number of doors in the room and the writings that are carved into the ceiling. The monk speculates that the answer to solving the riddle to finding the right path is engraved there. They arrive at the center of the room where a diorama sits. Luo shines his light on it, which activates the 2 brush puppets. Luo showcases his skills as he deactivates them with ease. All the while, the monk figures out the riddle and uses this knowledge to open the right path, which happens to be below the diorama. He pushes it to reveal the path. They finally arrive at the room that holds all the brushes. Luo is sure that Baidi could easily pass this clan's brush spirit test and get his spirit brush. The monk shuts Luo up by pointing out that there must be a reason why he wants to get rid of both his brushes. Luo explains that other people are hunting him for his brushes. This is the main reason he wants to get rid of them. He changes the topic to Miss Chin, as he wonders why she didn't steal more brushes, since there are so many in the room. Baidi speculates that she didn't have enough time, which prompts them to inspect the room, and they find sword marks all over the wall. He recalls that Chin could turn her brush spirit into swords when he last fought her. Luo is sure that she is the one who left the marks. He speculates that she made them because she was trying to find a way out. Chin most likely didn't have the time to find the mechanism for the door, so she opted to force her way out. Baidi agrees with his conclusion and finds that the marks cut off at a certain point. He thinks that the original door was damaged by Chin and has been repaired again. He can't find the mechanism to open the door, which means that it has been completely sealed off to prevent anyone from breaking in from the outside. The monk is positive that the exit is still behind the wall. Luo wastes no time and breaks the wall with his powers, revealing the way out. Baidi enlightens him as to why the brush library needs so many roads connecting to the outside world. This is so that the chief can move the brushes to a safe place in case of emergencies and evacuate the whole village using the secret paths. The two eventually reach the exit, and Luo states his intention to find Yan and Ju. Baidi decides to find the truth behind his father's death, since there are too many mysteries. Lu later meets up with Yan and explains the situation to him. The guy tries to get some sleep, but his friend's snoring is keeping him up. He uses this time to ask the pupil marking brush how to successfully split himself from the brush spirits, but it doesn't give him an answer. Yan wakes up and assures him that he will aid him in achieving his goal. Luo tells Yan that Baidi instructed them not to let Ju know the real reason for his absence, otherwise the stubborn guy would run back to the funeral regardless of the danger. Yan comes up with a convincing lie to keep the apprentice around. Unbeknownst to them, Changqing, Yihui, and Shiju from the Zhuge family have tracked and are stalking them from a nearby room. Yihui confirms that Luo has the pupil marking brush and assumes that the guy must have had the pen's previous owner, Master Fang, eliminated. The following day, Luo and his party go to Yongxin Temple since their investigation has led them to the tower next to the temple, as it was known to be a brush burial site. Luo gets a disturbing vision and sound that flashes in his head. He asks the others if they heard the sound as they try to comfort him. A sudden attack from Changqing forces them to dodge. Ju wastes no time to chase after him. Shiju stops Yan and Luo from following with a number of knife throws. She introduces herself and reveals that she will be the one to take Luo's life. The lady hurls some more blades at the guy who narrowly dodges. Yan tries to attack her, but Yihui stops him in his tracks with his entrance. Yan corrects the newcomer when he mistakes Luo for Jiang. His body begins to glow after correcting, and he's engulfed and turned into his spirit brush in another dimension. Yihui informs him that he has been transported to his spiritual territory. It was triggered when he mentioned his friend's name. Yihui reveals that he has the water brush. If Yan wants to escape, he must interpret and perform a rhyme analysis on some poems. Yan sees this challenge as too easy and uses his understanding of poetry to break out. All the while, Shiju intensely attacks Luo to get revenge for Master Fang, as she thinks that he is the one who ended him. Luo is confused because he has never heard of such a person. She can see that he can't defend himself with his bare hands, so he summons a sword with a poem, but Shiju easily breaks it. Luo calls on some armor to protect him from the next wave of knife attacks, but she shatters it, and he's sent flying into one of the gravestones. As he recovers, he wonders if she has some unlimited knives because of the way she throws them. He tries to obstruct her vision by summoning some fog, but Shiju blows it away and closes the distance, leading to a brief hand-to-hand exchange. He tries to put some distance between them by flying away, but she turns her knife into a javelin with her power and brings him down. The blade hits a gravestone and causes some residue to leak from it. She reveals to Luo that she has the rafter-like giant brush. Their intense fight is interrupted when a grave awakens, unleashing a giant, powerful spirit that leaves all parties shaken. The energy release creates a storm that almost blows them all away. Everyone prepares to evacuate when the wrath turns to attack Shiju. The pupil marking brush activates and pulls Luo to tackle her out of harm's way. The monster comes in for another assault, but Luo does the manly thing and uses himself to shield her. Luckily enough, the brush summons a barrier to protect them. Shiju slaps him for getting close to her, so he complains, but she soon realizes that it was the work of the brush and begins to get teary-eyed. Luo gets a little confused as to what is going on. Yan and Yihui narrowly dodge the creature's attack as they make it to the barrier. Yihui quickly retrieves Shiju and informs her that they must leave the area immediately. The two friends also decide to run to save Ju. The spirit sends out some skull minions to chase after all the parties. The barrier protects them, but Yan notices that it's beginning to shatter. He pleads for Luo to teach him how to use the technique so that he can use his brush to keep the barrier up, but Luo confesses that the brush is erecting the barrier on its own. Zhu and Changqing are frozen in their position by a third party. The others are chased back to the location of the giant corrupted spirit. They hide behind some large stones while the skullheads look for them. Yi Hui suggests they team up to escape this situation. If they put their spiritual power into one shield, they should be able to withstand a little longer. Shiju tries to protest, but he informs her that it's the only way. They teach Yan and Luo how to gather their power. Yan gets it the first time, and they all attach their power to the pupil marking brush. During that interval, the spirit calls back the skulls and uses the extra power to fully manifest. It turns into a disturbed monk who calls the name Xiao. This helps Yi Hui figure out that the spirit standing before them is Bian Kai, the disciple of Master Ji Yong. His master entrusted him with sacred text before he passed, and the emperor sent a man named Xiao to gain Bian Kai's trust in order to steal the scripture. This made him to fall into despair, and he died with a grudge against Xiao for his betrayal. The increase in the enraged spirit's power puts a strain on their barrier. Luo tries to pull extra power from the green lotus brush remnant, but the pupil marking brush prevents him. Yi Hui speculates that it might have something to say. Yan notices that the brush always points at the location of the pen burial no matter where Luo turns. They conclude that they must destroy it to release the spiritual power bottled inside. Luo can see why the pupil marking brush saved Shiju, because she's the only one who can destroy it. Yan, Shiju, and Luo step out of the barrier to get closer to the pen burial site. As they proceed, Yan uses his powers to restore them to an uninjured state while they push forward. He uses his last chance on Shiju, which gives her the chance to unleash a big attack that destroys the pen burial stone. However, Bian Kai's enraged ghost still stands. She notices that his urn is still intact and destroys it. The explosion blows her back. This releases Wang Shiji's brush spirit, which happens to be one of the 7 legendary brushes. Luo's green lotus brush remnant manifests and floats up to the other brush. Yi Hui sees this interaction and speculates that this new brush must be one of the legendary brushes because they are all connected. The brush uses Bian Kai's spirit as a source of ink and begins to write the passages of the sacred text. They allow Yi Hui to identify the new pen as the heavenly cloud brush. Seeing these lost words makes Bian Kai to calm down and rest in peace as he disappears. The skies clear as the green lotus brush remnant and the heavenly cloud brush float above them. Yi Hui tries to capture the heavenly cloud brush, but Sharon interferes. Yi Hui states they found the brush, so it belongs to them. He tries to attack the old man, but Rong interferes, freezing him in place. Luo is shocked to see his crush. She keeps them in check while her grandfather retrieves the brush. Luo demands to know what is going on, so she reveals that the heavenly cloud brush flies away the moment the seal for it is removed. It only lingers around when the green lotus brush remnant is present. This is why Rong's note led him to this location. Luo feels used again and attacks Sharon out of rage, but it is deflected back to him, knocking him down. Rong rushes over to see if he's all right, but he doesn't want her comfort as he dismisses her for betraying him again. She leaves with her grandfather after they retrieve the heavenly cloud brush. Rong then releases everyone she captured with her ice. Changqing arrives at the scene of the battle where Yi Hui updates him on what happened. Changqing assures him that they can retrieve the lost brush at any time. He wants them to end Yan and Luo and take their brush. Yi Hui points out that their pen holder is damaged and suggests they take them back to the family house. Changqing is angry to hear that the family is not taking Luo and Yan's brushes. Yi Hui explains that getting information about the legendary brushes is more important, so they are interrogating the two. Later, Changqing heads to the cells to eliminate the prisoners, since they know that he was the one who ended the family member Master Fang to take his pupil marking brush. He arrives to meet the guards knocked out, and Luo and Yan already taken out by an unhinged Shijui. The story continues as Changqing sheaths his blade and lets off a little smile before getting Shijui's attention. He pretends to be concerned as he demands to know why she eliminated their captives. He informs her that the clan master will be furious with her actions. She feels like people who end people's lives need to have the same thing done to them. Shijui presents an ID that she found on Luo. Changqing inspects it and is enraged that they kept their victims' things. Shijui's demeanor suddenly changes as she asks him how he knew that it was Fang Bin's ID. He stutters as he says that his photo is on the card. This is a surprise to her because as far as she is concerned, Changqing has never met Fang Bin before. So she wonders how he was able to identify him. The guy explains that he looked at his name, but quickly realizes that name is different. Shijui knows that he recognized the master through the photo, so she wants to know why he was able to do so if he's never met the master before. Changqing is on the intellectual back foot and tries to explain that the smudges of residue on the card, coupled with the fact that she said the ID came from the crime scene, made him conclude that it was Fang Bin. The lady is not giving him time to develop his lie, as she informs him that Fang Bin was strangled, so she doesn't understand why there would be red residue on the ID. Changqing falls for the bait, as he quickly corrects her that Fang Bin was stabbed. He gasps as he realizes his fatal mistake. Shijui and Luo inform him that nobody knows how the master passed away apart from the seniors and the culprit. He is surprised to see Luo alive. Yan also gets up and snatches the ID from Changqing and says that the name on it is his. Luo reveals that he faked the scene using one of Qinglian's verses. Changqing reaches for his weapon when a call from Fei makes him pause. The senior member requests he stay and explain himself. Things flash back to the interrogation of Luo and Yan. They were adamant that Changqing eliminated Fang Bin. But Yi Hui simply pointed out that Luo has the pupil marking ink brush. Yi Hui believed that people lie, but the brush spirits don't. Luo also believed this notion, so he suggested they let him ask the pupil marking brush one question, which they allowed. He asked the brush how he could prove his innocence. Yi Hui quickly retrieved the brush's answer before Luo. The brush simply wrote death. As Changqing hears this in the present time, he tries to turn things on Luo by explaining that the brush wants the student dead. Fei reveals that the brush only replies based on facts, so this means that Luo must be innocent if it gave a response. Because of this, they allowed him to fake his demise to prove his innocence and help them find the real culprit. Changqing whips out his weapon when Yi Hui prepares to capture him, but he's knocked out by Luo and Yan. He regains consciousness to find himself tied up, but he's reluctant to talk. Fei steps up and uses his power to pull out Changqing's brush spirit to help him talk. Yi Hui is surprised to see Fei using his brush spirit. Luo finds the ability a little disturbing and wonders what kind of brush spirit it is. Shijui informs him that Fei is the host of the Tongjian brush. He can hold the host through their brush and manipulate whatever outcome he desires. Fei demands to know Changqing's comrades as well as who their boss is. He simply informs them that they can never fathom his master's power. Changqing loses his life before he can say anything. Yan tries to revive him with his powers, but it doesn't work. Fei reveals that there was a curse on Changqing which activates when any topic about the secret mastermind is uttered. The senior member is sure that the brush spirit that created this curse is stronger than his Tongjian brush. Luo and Yan are finally allowed to get some fresh air after proving their innocence. Shijui joins them and apologizes for accusing Luo of eliminating Fang Bin, so he's quick to forgive her. She also thanks him for saving her during their fight against Bian Kai. This makes Luo blush, as he tries to act cool, which also causes Shijui to blush. Yan cringes a little from the interaction. Fei interrupts to thank the two for helping them find the traitor. He informs them that the clan master Li also wants to express his gratitude. Luo is very interested in meeting him, since he was attacked by a fake version in the past, so this is the perfect opportunity to get a look at him. He enters the chambers of the master, and is astonished by how much younger the original looks. He is not surprised that Miss Qin caught his lie when he calls the clan master an old man. Li welcomes him and offers him a seat. He thanks Luo for the help, and insists he makes any wish as his reward. The student tells him that he only wants to know about the separation. Li lets him know that he has already heard about his story. Sadly, his knowledge about that topic is very limited. The clan leader advises him to head to the Lutian nunnery in Yongzhou. However, he warns him about the death brush scribes. He is sure that they are interested in him and his two brushes. This is the first time Luo has heard about these individuals. Li explains that when the pen burial ritual shut down, the birth of new brush spirits also ended. Some evil pen hosts studied brush puppeteer refining and developed the art of refining the living brush spirits. This is known as death brush. Their brush spirits swallow human souls and possess the victim's body. This turns the body into a puppet that only obeys the caster's order. The death brush scribes have their own set of rules. The Zhuge and Wei families formed an alliance to wipe them out, but they were not able to. He suspects that they are the force controlling the traitors who are within their mix. According to sources, the disaster caused by Chiron which fractured the Wei family has something to do with the death brush scribes. Li is sure that these bad actors are up to something. Meanwhile, Wrong's studies are interrupted by her grandfather who has come to check on her. She gives him the cold shoulder, but he tries to explain that his actions are necessary. He gets her attention when he informs her that he doesn't have too much time left. Chiron informs her that it's due to his old age, which is part of life. He worries about her because he is the only family that she has. She assures him that she will be fine. The girl even wants to follow him on his next mission, but he tells her that it's too dangerous. He promises that he will not eliminate Luo, but he makes her promise that she will survive even if he meets his demise. Back at the Zhuge establishment, Luo and Yan are invited to stay at the estate for a few more days as a treat. Their stay begins with a private feast with Li, Fei, and the others. They also play a few rounds of golf with Shijui as their tutor. They are then taken on a tour exhibiting all the history of the family among other things. After a few days of this fun, they start to realize that they are under luxury house arrest, when Luo is prevented from going to an internet cafe. Luo gets some voice notes from Baide informing him that he has found some information about the Ludian nunnery, which could have positive implications for his brush separation. Luo calls the monk and tells him about what happened after they lost touch with Ju. He warns Luo that the Juga aren't good people, so if he can escape and meet him at the nunnery, that would be best. He's excited about the news, but is stuck on how to execute this escape. Shijui appears behind him, offering her assistance in his escape. He's a little confused by why she would offer to help him, since she's a member of the Zhug family. The lady tells him that her help comes with a condition. Fei has traced the rest of the traitors, and they are planning something big in the Lutian nunnery. Their family intends to eliminate them, and Fei wants her to be the one to carry on the mission. Luo understands her proposal as that she will help them escape, and they will aid her in her revenge. Shijui is determined to make them pay for eliminating Fang Bin. He grabs her hand to inform her that they have a deal. This makes her blush. He drags her along to tell Yan as he discusses how they will meet at midnight to execute their escape. They link up at the designated time, and Shijui leads them to an exit that is normally not watched. The trio arrives to meet Chao waiting for them, and with a smile on his face, he advises Luo not to leave at night as it is dangerous. Yan has had enough of the nice guy act they are trying to trick them with. Shijui prompts everyone to just run to the gate. The three are surprised to see Chao politely gesturing for them to leave. Luo assumes that he yielded because they have the numbers advantage. Chao takes a step which activates his power, causing the trio to find themselves back on the estate grounds. Yan suspects that the guy also has a brush spirit. Shijui confesses that she doesn't know much about him since he's a new chef. They decide to attack Chao on their second time up, but he makes Yan punch a stone wall. Luo noticed that his power only activated once the chef stomped on the ground. The student concludes that Chao can transfer people in the reverse direction of where his foot is facing. He is sure that the chef can't transfer one target at a time, which is why he waits for them all to run past. Shijui recalls that she has heard of such a brush spirit. It is called the waterway brush. So the trio comes up with a plan to defeat him. They all run in opposite directions to trick the chef. He turns them 90 degrees to keep them all on the estate ground. This leaves him open for Yan to knock him out from the back. The trio quickly leave and take the train to Yongzhou. Upon their arrival, Luo gets a call from Baidei's line. Someone informs him that the monk is in the intensive care unit. He rushes to the hospital while Shijui and Yan head to the Ludian nunnery. The two arrive to meet some people badly injured. Back at the hospital, Luo sits till Baidei regains consciousness. The monk recounts how he started looking into the Wei mansion after they parted. He found that his uncle Dingguo had bribed the elders of the clan with some stores at the estate to strengthen his power. He then began using this under the leadership of the late chief. Even though the chief was old, he was still powerful. No brush host in the Wei clan could have overpowered his brush spirit and eliminated it in a flash like that. Baidei later secretly tailed a member of the clan who left the mansion for business and found him meeting with a member of the Zhuge clan in private. He overheard them discussing how to acquire brush spirits of the Zhuge's collection for someone they refer to as the Master. Luo recalls Changqing mentioning the same person when he was being interrogated. This confirms that there is a sinister third party that has united traitors from the Zhuge and Wei families. Baidei reveals that they caught wind of his investigation when he was waiting for them in Yongzhou. The monk noticed that the traitor of the Zhuge clan was targeting the Lutian nunnery, so he followed and was ambushed. Luo jolts up because Yan and Shijui are at the nunnery. The duo checks the unconscious agents to find that they have all been eliminated. Shijui is a little confused because these members were sent to finish the traitors. However, the operation was scheduled for the following day. Yan speculates that Fei didn't want her to get involved, so he gave her misinformation. The old man didn't anticipate her being so stubborn to arrive so early. As they rush to the Ludian nunnery to find out the status of the situation, Baidei confesses that their foes have terrifying powers, so he's lucky to have survived the ambush. Luo frantically tries to call Yan to warn them about the danger they face, but the guy doesn't pick, so he decides to rush there to warn them. All the while, the duo arrives at the temple to meet Fei and Yi Hui confronting the assailants. Yi Hui rushes in to attack, but he's taken out by Chun. Yan stops Shijui when she tries to jump in to help. He wants to get a better understanding of the situation, so Shijui identifies the other guy as Yiman, and all the traitors of the Zhuge clan have contact with him. A powerful brush puppet arrives on the scene, pausing Shijui's attempt to get involved. The monster lets out a scream before attacking Fei, but the old man activates his brush and easily knocks him down. Yan is shocked that Fei's Tongjin brush has such offensive power. Fei uses this opportunity to find that it's Chun who is controlling the monster and attacks him, but the creature intercepts before he gets to its controller. Chun uses his powers to increase the ferocity of his puppet, but Fei still knocks it down. Yiman joins the fight by ambushing Fei and infecting him with the power of the ghost brush. Shijui interjects as he prepares to land the final blow, and the duo quickly launches an attack to rescue Fei. They are successful, but Yan gets hit by the monster as he's about to heal Fei. Both Shijui and Yan find themselves on the back foot and retreat to Fei's side. Luo arrives just in time and summons some spirit soldiers to find Yimin and the monster's attack. He gives Yan a strong handshake as the friends reunite. Luo places something in Yan's hand before he confronts Yimin. As they prepare to attack, Yimin uses his powers to infect Shijui, Yan, and Fei, knocking them unconscious. This attack sucks people's energy, so he threatens to take the three's life force if Luo doesn't forfeit his brushes. He's already aware that Luo came to separate himself from the brushes. The lad doesn't have any other option but to accept. Yimin informs him that Huai Su was a former resident of the Lutian nunnery who practiced calligraphy. He wasted so many brushes it became known as the brush burial, but it was destroyed in a war. Luo is to go to the Huai Su fantasy dimension. The calligrapher sealed the brush burial by summoning 4 dragons. They turned to stone and have been guarding the place since. He must open it by using the pupil marking brush to mark it. This will give him access to the Huai Su fantasy. Luo opens the gate and steps in. He is amazed at how beautiful the place is. Meanwhile, back outside, Yimin reveals that they intend to use Luo as bait for the dragon guardians. After he's sacrificed, they will enter and retrieve Huai Su's brush. They don't notice Yan's hand glowing as they discuss their plot. Unfortunately for them, Luo is startled by the dragon, but they don't finish him off because he has the green lotus remnant. Huai Su appears before him, revealing that he was friends with Qinglian, which is why the dragons stopped their attack. The calligrapher invites him inside for a chat and gives him a drink that heals his wound. As they discuss, Luo requests Huai Su's brush so that he can defeat the enemies that await outside. The calligrapher informs him that he didn't want to be turned into a brush, so he created the Huai Su fantasy instead. During that interim, Yan regains consciousness because Luo gave him a charm bead from the monk, which dispelled the infection. He heals Shijui and Fei, allowing them to begin their counterattack. As they fight, Yan uses himself as a human shield to prevent Fei from taking massive damage. Back in the fantasy dimension, Huai Su shows Luo the fight happening outside and informs him that he can either use this opportunity to remove the brushes that dwell inside of him or attain the power needed to defeat the opponents outside. He chooses the latter and emerges to Yimin's surprise. With his newfound power, he swiftly defeats them and demands Yimin to tell him who his master is. He calls the name Hanzhang before he's eliminated by his master, and Chun quickly excuses himself. Luo recalls his teacher Mr. Ju mentioning the same name in the past. The sun shines on his face as he ponders what to do next. This brings the season to an end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.
Okay.